So, what happens when a narcissist finds new supply? Well, are they going to move on or are you still on the hook? I'm going to tell you all about it in this video. What exactly is new supply, by the way? In simple terms, it's a new source of admiration, new source of attention, new source of validation, something they can feed off of. Supply is their food, it's their lifeblood, it's their oxygen. They're constantly seeking out something that they can, it's like that, ooh, it's like that good back scratch or whatever it is, something for their fragile egos, maintain their sense of superiority. What happens when they latch on to something new like that? Well, let's break it down. Number one, it's that initial discard phase. When a narcissist finds new supply, they often discard their current partner if it's a good source of supply. And this can be sudden, it can be brutal, and it can leave you feeling blindsided, like what is going on? They can feel abandoned, and they might start ignoring you, devaluing you, or even poof, ghosting you entirely. Wait a minute, what happened over here? Like, for example, if you're in a relationship, it could be even for years, and I've seen this happen. And suddenly the narcissist starts spending all this time with a new friend. It could be a colleague, maybe it's some high school person that they met at a reunion or whatever. And all of a sudden, boom, you're gone. You are out of the picture. You're just dropped like a lead balloon. And you can feel confused, you can feel hurt. Another example is that maybe they just start slowly disengaging. Like they found somebody on social media, they connected with them, this person started liking all their posts, or I don't know, you're just so good looking or whatever it is. And they just start like engaging with this person. And now you're just old hat, you're just old, whatever. And now they're just on to this new person who thinks that they're like all hot stuff. And so now they're barely acknowledging you. And the shift in attention is onto this other person. It could be an emotional thing, right? Where they're engaging emotionally with this new person online. And you just start feeling like you're the invisible one. Another way that it shows up is you find out that the person just moved out. You come home and the person's just gone. I've seen that happen before too. You didn't even know that there was going to be something happening. And like maybe you knew that the relationship was not good, but you didn't know that they were just going to be gone. It's crazy how they just do this. If you guys have seen any of these things, let me know in the comments. Just put, I've seen it, or I've had it happen to me. Let me know. The next way that it shows up maybe is triangulation. So they love to create what I call drama, trauma, and chaos. I always say I take people from drama, trauma, and chaos to a life of freedom, possibility, and purpose in my slay programs and all the things that I do. But one thing they do is they do drama, trauma, and chaos. They stir that stew. And one way they do that is through triangulation. They pit you against the new supply. Like, oh, this person's giving me all this attention. This person's giving me all this approval. This person likes me. This person is giving me what you're not giving me. Why can't you be more like so-and-so? They're so much more fun. They're fit. This person who works out, or this person likes to do, all the things that you're not doing, whatever it is. Or this person is so much more successful. They're into all these things, all the things that you're not into. And it's a manipulative tactic to make you feel insecure, to make you feel jealous. Another example might be in a workplace setting where a boss, maybe a narcissistic boss, might constantly compare you to a new colleague, praising them for another person for having all the qualities that you lack. All these things designed to keep you on edge, trying to gain their approval, but it just really made you feeling like really inadequate, right? In a family scenario, it might be looking like a parent favoring one particular sibling over another, saying like, oh, look how well your sister's doing, and just trying to create this sense of competition and trying to make you feel inferior. And it just ends up eroding your self-esteem and causing rivalry between you and your family member. Triangulation is a very, very toxic tool. What they do is they end up like trying to make you feel excluded, and they just trying to make you feel ignored and trying to make you feel inferior. They think that you're going to be trying to strive for their approval, and maybe it does, but it just causes this massive amount of consternation and anxiety in you, and even depression. This is horrible. Join my free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Get my free phrases for disarming narcissists at disarmthenarc.com. It will help you to, just have some phrases to get respect for yourself and have something to say. It's always nice to have some scripts and things to say and at the ready as well, right? The next tactic is, what happens when a narcissist finds new supplies? Hoovering. All right, so they might come back. I suggest when you think that you're like finally healed, you're moving on, they suck you back in because they see that you're finally moving on. They see that you're finally getting back past it. And then here they come creeping back in with a DM or like showing up somewhere. Oh, here they are. They reach out with sweet messages, apologies, even gifts. They lure you back into that cycle, that toxicity. Weeks after, sometimes, here they come with this heartfelt apology or, oh, I made a mistake, or, I want you back, or whatever. It can be very, very tempting. They can be very, very convincing. You have to really remember that everything they're doing is a manipulation and not fall for it, because even though you get these nostalgic reminders, like remember the good times you had, or unexpected gifts of sentimental value, it's just all designed to question your decision and pull you back into that sphere of crazy making. And sometimes they'll like fabricate like a crisis that's going on in their life, or they need your urgent help or something, and they play on your empathy and your desire for you're the only one that can help. And they might use like flying monkeys to like, oh, can you, they'll send messages through that, oh, they regret what happened, or maybe you should give them another chance. And it can be incredibly seductive. Okay, it plays on your emotions and the positive memories, but it is so crucial that you recognize that it is a tactic to regain control. You cannot fall for it. All right. So the next thing is a smear campaign. So if you refuse to be hoovered back, then narcissists will then maybe launch into some smear campaign against you. They'll spread lies and rumors to damage your reputation, because they're like afraid that you're going to do it, so they want to make sure they get like that preemptive strike in and make themselves look like the victim, right? So they might tell like mutual friends that you're the one who was abusive, or you're the one that was unfaithful. And they try to turn people against you and isolate you further. In a professional setting, they might go to your superiors or HR with fabricated complaints about your performance or behavior, attempting to undermine your career and credibility. And they might try to spread rumors within your community or social circles, saying things like, I tried so hard to make it work, but they were just too difficult to deal with. They try to cast themselves as like this martyr, and you're definitely the villain. And a smear campaign can be incredibly isolating, incredibly damaging. It's designed to discredit you and make it harder for you to build a support system. But remember, the truth will always prevail, and it's important to stay strong and maintain your credibility. Navigating these tactics can be incredibly challenging, but the first step is to reclaim your power. Remember, it's not about you. It's about their insatiable need for validation. So stay strong and focus on your own healing and growth. Why does it seem like narcissists love you one minute and then hate you the next? Okay, I'm going to tell you one thing. They don't ever really love you, period. I mean, they just feed off of you. They feed off of your energy. They feed off of your supply. because that's what they're going for right from the beginning. So let me explain something to you about how narcissists are. Okay. So a narcissist is a person who has absolutely no sense of self. Picture a person who's literally almost like they're starving. They have no oxygen. It's like they can't breathe, or they have like a black hole inside of them. And so they're constantly trying to breathe or get food. So they can't really see you because they're constantly trying to survive. And they want you to fill this black hole, and you might want to fill it too. And so you're trying to fill this black hole, but they can't really receive. And so you're left feeling depleted. They're still starving. This is like this vicious cycle that's happening all the time. And they cannot be healed. And this is what's happening constantly. And so they can't see you or feel anything about you because they're just in this scarcity mode all the time. And they feed off of this narcissistic supply. It's this external source of supply. I mean, it's not like they don't actually have value, but they don't feel like they have any value. So they're trying to get this external source of supply from you. So they're attaching themselves to you to try to get this source of supply from you. And how do they feed off of that? They feed off of this drama. They want to try to trigger you through this manipulation, and they feed off of your empathy. They can't actually love you, but they want you to love them, and they want you to pay attention to them. They attach themselves to you. They want you to give them this adulation, and they feed off of drama. Okay. So they're take, and they're incapable of seeing this adverse effect on your emotions, by the way. I mean, everything is a manipulation. And so they get you to pay attention to them and care about them, and then they ghost you, and then you're upset about it, but then they get you to beg. They feed off of this high emotion and this constant up and down and this constant drama. They enjoy this drama of this up and down and up and down. If it was just even all the time, there would be no supply to be had. The supply comes from the up and the down. There would be nothing to be had if it was just, how was your day? Blah, blah, blah. And they don't believe in a two-way street. I mean, they can't give to you. So, how they're getting the supply is by, they pay attention enough to you to get you to give back this adulation. They'll give enough to you so that you can start paying attention to them, so that you're begging them to stay, showing them how much you love them. Please don't leave me. All of that sort of thing, because they want you to be in this constant place of control where you're proving to them that they still have control over you. So by back and forth, by building you up and then pushing you away and then you begging them, they show that they still have control over you. And that's why they do this back and forth. Well-adjusted, healthy people don't feed off of this constant drama to demonstrate that they still have control over you. And by the way, by doing this back and forth thing, that's how you become addicted to them. That's how they mess with your emotions. The dopamine levels in your brain become addicted to needing that hit from them. By the way, there's a study by Robert Sapolsky that shows that you need that hit from them too, just that anticipation of, are you going to get the back and forth from them as well? Are you going to get the adulation back from them? And so, you become trauma bonded to them. It's a very, very unhealthy dynamic. And by the way, I have a whole video on this is what emotional abuse looks like. And I would definitely check out my video on this is what emotional abuse looks like, because it is very, very much emotional abuse what they are inflicting on you. You definitely want to check that out. You definitely want to also check out my video on self-care when you are in narcissistic relationships, because you need to take care of yourself. And I will also make sure that there are links to other resources such as the domestic violence hotline. And we also have a partnership with BetterHelp Online Therapy, which, for those of you who need access to more support, more therapy, please make sure that you get the help that you need for therapy as well. I mean, please don't sit out there and not get the help that you need for that as well, because narcissists are master manipulators. They don't actually really love you. Everything is a manipulation. And if you agree with me, put agree in the comments below, because you know that this is the case. And this is why it's best to not just walk away from these relationships, but to actually run away from these relationships. I mean, they don't have the ability to feel anything about you. They don't have the ability. It's like if somebody has a toothache, all they can think about is their toothache. They can't feel anything about what's going on outside of their own toothache, because they can only feel their own pain. And that's what's going on with them. It cannot be healed. They can only take care of themselves. So you need to take care of yourself as well.
Because remember, narcissists get supply from making your life miserable. And the one thing that I really want people to understand is that there is a hierarchy of supply for narcissists. There's like this diamond level supply, which they will hold on to and protect at any cost, which is how they look, their reputation, their place in the community, especially in front of people that they respect, which they certainly respect judges and attorneys and other people involved in the process. They want the parenting plan coordinator to, think that they're wonderful, or the guardian ad litem, or the custody evaluator, whoever's involved. And so they'll protect their reputation and how they look at any cost. And that's really like the level of supply for them. And then there's what I call the coal level of supply. And the coal level of supply is like the supply that gives them energy. It burns, and they love it. Of course, they want to keep all areas of supply that they can, all lines of it. But the supply that they get from jerking you around, making you miserable, dragging out the case, making you squirm, making you feel intimidated, all those kinds of things is what I call coal level supply. So the key in creating leverage in any negotiation is going to be threatening that diamond level supply in a way where they really feel like this is going to happen, but not actually doing it. That's like the key. If you can manage it, is be ready to go through with it, but not actually have to, because they'll let go of the coal level supply, which is the making you miserable part, in order to grasp on and hold on to that diamond level of supply. And that's what I teach you how to do. You've got to create that strategy. You've got to create that leverage. Otherwise, you will be led around by the nose, because making you miserable is what they actually want out of the negotiation. They don't want anything else. They don't want, they just want that supply. They get supply from making you miserable.
All right. So there are a number of things that narcissists definitely want, but really it all leads back to one path, and that is the Almighty. The Almighty, which is narcissistic supply. There is a hierarchy to narcissistic supply, however, that I have figured out. And that is that they want this, what I call sort of a diamond level supply or grade A level supply or tier one, if you will. And that is how they look. And how they look, it can be tied to a number of different things. It can be the big houses, the prestigious friends, the great cars, the impressive job, the big bank account, that sort of thing. But it's all going to be tied up in how they look. And then there's what I call tier two, the coal level. If you're looking at diamond level, there's the coal level. It's the less so. It's also very, very important to them, but it's kind of, it's like the flip side. It's the side they don't necessarily show people. It's like why I know that they know how to behave, but it's something that they also love and don't so easily give up. But it's devaluing people, debasing people, treating people poorly, manipulating people, triggering people, getting under people's skin, using their sense of control to try to make themselves feel superior to others. It's to build up their ego by making them feel like they are better than others. And it's not the external, it's not how they look to the world, but more how they look in their eyes to other people. And so the external, that adulation, is what they want more than absolutely anything. Now, what they want more than anything is that adulation. And so, what they want more than anything is to have full control over you, full control, full adulation, full dominion over you. And that's what they're going for in the relationship, is that full dominion over you at all times. Now, obviously, you don't want to give in to that during the relationship, because once you do that, they actually kind of start hating you at that point. And you do want to check out my video on why the narcissist hates you. Definitely check out my video on that. They do start to hate you at that point. They don't really want that. They actually feed on the drama of the back and forth of the whole thing. I mean, they kind of want you to go back and forth and have this whole drama. And I do have a whole video, by the way, on why the narcissist loves you and hates you. And you should check out that video as well. That's why they have these cycles of the relationship, the love bombing, the devaluing and the discarding. And then they go back and forth, back to the love bombing and then devaluing and the discard. You can check out my videos on that as well, because they don't really necessarily want that. And by the way, the only type of person that they actually respect is somebody who's going to kind of stand up to them. I have a video on that also. And that's why you have to have boundaries. So I want you to write that in the comments right now, boundaries, because as soon as you start establishing boundaries, that's when you're going to start to push back. That's when you're going to start to negotiate with them. That's when you're going to start to shift the dynamic. And that's part of my slay methodology. That's when you're going to start to take your power back, and they will actually start to fear you. And that is what I always say, the not so secret is the narcissist is actually way more afraid of you than you are of them. There's no doubt about it. So you're not going to give in completely where they have full, complete dominion over you in the relationship, because that's what they really want. They want full dominion over you. That's what they really, really want, because you lose your self-respect, you lose your freedom, you lose who you are. And I can't tell you how many people have come into my office and said, I don't even know who I am anymore. I've lost who I am. And people who still know who they are in a professional sense, who are very, very highly respected individuals in their professions and in their careers. And I may be talking to you, but on a personal level, they don't know who they are anymore because they've completely lost themselves in the relationship, because they've lost themselves to this person. And if that's you, by the way, and you need a therapist, we do have a partnership with betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung. And, we do receive sponsorship with them. There's no additional cost to you, but get the support that you need. Or if you have your own therapist, and that's great too. But we only partner with people that we trust. So I wanted to mention that if you don't have your own therapist. But going back to this, what they want, and I mention this because when you go to negotiate with them, a lot of times you're in this fog, and how you start to find your place of power is putting down those boundaries and starting to walk forward and not backward. How you start to do that is starting to even just recognize what's happening. And by getting education like this and recognizing what's happening, starting to put those boundaries in place, starting to shut down what's going on, and realizing that you don't have to live this way any longer, because you sure as heck don't. Now, are you dealing with a narcissist and they've actually discarded you, or you've discarded them, and they're still completely obsessed with you? And you want to know why in the heck that is? Before I can give you the exact why, I think it's really important that you understand the psyche of a narcissist. So a narcissist has no inner sense of value. They have to derive all of their value from the external. So they're constantly grasping on to whatever they can to get that source of supply, what we call narcissistic supply. And narcissistic supply is anything that feeds a narcissist's ego. Anything that feeds their ego. It could be bad, it could be good, it could be neutral, but as long as it's feeding their ego, then they're grasping onto it. It's seriously like a predator with its prey. Like, they need to have that food. They're gonna grasp onto it wherever it is, and they're going to hurt people, anybody who's going to threaten that source, okay? So just think of it like a really super hungry animal that's out in the wild, and they finally see a food source, and they're gonna grasp onto that. And if somebody comes along and tries to threaten that source, they're gonna reach out and try to kill them or hurt them in some way, because they have to have that food. And that's what's going on with the narcissist. They live on it, they feed on it, it's their food, it's their oxygen. And it can come in the form of many different versions. I mean, the whole fact that they have no boundaries and that they beef up their egos and by saying how great they are and all of that, that's all a form of narcissism. But remember, we all on some level want to feel seen, heard, and know that we matter. So it's a continuum. I mean, all human beings have to feel some sort of value, and we all want to have other people notice our value as well. That's just part of being human. What differentiates a narcissist from everybody else wanting to know that they're valued is that they have no sense of feeling or empathy or care or love for another human being. They just can't do it because they feel that if they do, it takes away from them. And that means you're taking away that food source, that oxygen source, their lifeblood, really. And they don't understand it. They certainly have never processed it. It's totally subconscious, but that's what's going on. And so they attach themselves to people just the same as like pods do or leeches do, like because they need to attach themselves to people for food source. They never attach themselves to people in order to give to them in some way. It just doesn't even, they don't process the world that way. It's only what can this person or this situation do for me. And so when you're dealing with a narcissist, you've been dealing with 3 different phases of the relationship, which are the love bomb, devalue, and discard. And if you want more information about those 3 phases of the relationship, definitely check out my videos on love bomb, devalue, and discard. During these 3 phases of the relationship, they can be love bombing you while they're devaluing you and love bombing while they're discarding. They really go back and forth between the phases. And yes, it starts with love bomb and it ends with discard, but everything's happening sort of all at once in that middle stage. I had one of you guys actually commented on my videos. It's like it's love bomb at the beginning, discard at the end, and toxic stew in between. And that was a really great way of putting it. So, you know, while you're in the middle of the discard phase, you're still going to be getting love bombed and going back and forth between love bomb and discard, which is sometimes called hoovering, because that supply source is being threatened and they don't want that supply source to go away. So even if they don't want you anymore and they're telling you, I don't want you anymore, and they're rejecting you, and they're telling you that you're a piece of crap and that you're a speck of dust on the planet and nothing matters about you, well, they obviously must think that there's still some amount of supply they can get out of you if they're still coming back to try to get more and trying to squeeze more out of you. So that's what's actually happening and why they're still obsessed with you. So if they feel like there's some way that they can still control you, or if they can upset you or jerk you around in some way or get you all riled up about something, then they get supply from that, so they're going to come back and do that. Even if they like block you on something, well, they do that because they want to get a rise out of you. They want you to go, oh my God, why did you block me? Or go back to other people and say, why did this person block me? And they found out now that you're upset about that. So the best thing that you can do to get them to stop being so obsessed with you is to just completely go no contact with them and not give them any attention or any information whatsoever, and just react to them like by just blocking them yourself and moving on and acting as if they just never existed in your life. Literally, like you're wiping out that part of your CPU, like that person never existed in your life. That's the only way that they will finally and eventually stop being obsessed with you, because they'll finally have to move on and find a different source of supply. They can't be rehabilitated. It's not like they're going to change. They're going to come back in the form of, drunk texting you, or saying that they're sorry, or, hoover you in some way by saying, why aren't you responding to me, and try to get you sucked back into their weird vortex of craziness. But you can't take that bait, because if you do that, then that obsession with you will continue to just go on and on and on and on and on. If you are so ready to get that narcissist out of your life and say goodbye forever, give me a narc be gone in the comments. So to summarize, the reason why the narcissist is still so obsessed over you is because they still think that there's some shred of supply that they can get out of you. Whether it's upsetting you, jerking you around, devaluing you, degrading you, getting you to pay attention to them in some way, controlling you in some way, whatever that is, That's why they're still obsessed with you. There's some version of supply that they still think that they can get from you. And until there's no more supply to be gotten from you, they're going to continue to be obsessed with you. Even if it seems like they've moved on to their new supply, if they can still get supply from the new one and the old one, even better for them. Because remember, they need an endless amount. It's like this black hole that can never be fed, right? It can never be satiated. So as long as they still think there's some kind of supply they can get out of you, they're going to continue to be obsessed over you. Why won't the narcissist ever forget you? So the narcissist doesn't forget you because the narcissist was probably getting some massive amount of supply from you. What does that mean? That means that they were getting something that feeds their ego. So a narcissist is a person who has no internal sense of value. So that means that they're kind of like desperate people, desperate for survival, desperate for air almost, like they are starving. Picture a person who's like starving, gasping for breath. It's like scarcity to the utmost extreme. They have no inner sense of value. So it's like they have this black hole inside of them all the time. And so they're trying to feed this inner beast all the time. And so because of that, they can't feel you. They can't feel anything about you. And they want you to fill this black hole, and you might want to fill it too. And so you're over there trying to fill this thing, but they can't receive. And so you're left feeling depleted, and they're still starving. And it's like that all the time, but yet they can't be fixed. And so it's this horrible, horrible cycle of viciousness. But you were probably giving them something like the short-term fix. And you probably were giving them some really, really good source of this supply, this narcissistic supply. And if you were giving them a really good source of narcissistic supply and then walked away from them, then they are having a hard time forgetting about that. So that's probably one thing. And that fuel, that narcissistic supply fuel, is like their food, their lifeblood, their oxygen. And if you walked away from them, they aren't going to easily forget about that. All right, so that's number one. Number two, if you were a main source of supply, even if they, by the way, cut you off and then decided they wanted you back, and then you said no, that's kind of the same thing. Like they went back and kind of hoovered you, like, oh, I decided I want you back now. And then you said no, then that's the same thing, especially if you were a main source of supply. Like you were giving them something really good, like adulation or, good sex or money or power, a sense of power. Those are all really, really good main sources of supply for them. And so they go back and they try to get that back, then they're going to have a hard time forgetting about you. Believe me, they will remember everything about you, every detail, every little thing. And they're going to try to find ways to get you messages, even if you are ignoring their messages, you're ignoring the direct messages or whatever, they will put a link about you in their Instagram bio, or they will create a Spotify playlist that's like a message to you about your relationship. They'll figure out a way to let you know that they are thinking about you. So those are ways that they'll let you know that they haven't forgotten you. And they will use, number three, the information that they have about you to manipulate you and control you. So they might say things like, how is your family? Or how's your mom? I heard that your mom is sick. Or I heard that your brother is graduating. Or I heard something about your dog or something like that. They'll let you know that they're still watching you, or that they heard from a friend about something about you, or they'll tell a friend to get a message to you, or they might even send something to you, just to let you know that they're still around, that they are still thinking of you, that they're still in the air, just to manipulate you or control you. Or they might even drop a little message to let you know, oh, I was sick, or something like that. Or, oh, sorry, that wasn't meant for you. That was meant for somebody else. I'm fine. I'm fine. Just to kind of play on your sympathies. What's going on? Oh, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm not your problem anymore. Something like that, just to mess with you, try to play the victim, things like that, manipulate you, control you, something to that effect. Number 4 is they will keep track of your every move and use it against you later. Oh, I saw that you went to this party. I understand that you were driving around over here. I understand that you saw this person. What were you doing there? How come you were talking to this person? I thought that you were having a hard time getting over our relationship. How come you moved on so quickly? I saw on social media that you were dating now. How nice for you. Things like that. They're watching you, tracking you, seeing what you're up to. Oh, I understand that you started a new job. They're watching every move. Oh, congratulations on your new promotion, things like that. They know how to push your buttons and exploit your weaknesses. And they might even continue to harass you. They might even drive by your house. They might continue to stalk you. I know I've seen narcissists who would sign up for magazine subscriptions for people. All of a sudden magazines would start showing up at their house that they knew that they hadn't signed up for, even explicit ones, or bouquets of things, or things would show up at their house. Sometimes it could border on stalking, by the way. So I would definitely check out my video called This is What Emotional Abuse Looks Like. If you do think that you are a victim of domestic violence, I will make sure that we have a link to that below here as well. And I do have videos on what it means to go gray rock and 10 tactics that narcissists use to train you to comply. I would definitely check out all of those things. Definitely go gray rock for sure. And I want you to put that in the comments, gray rock, because the more you continue to give them supply, the more they will continue to come around. Just go gray rock, which means, you're like a gray rock, not giving them supply. That is what I want to tell you. The more you can cut off supply to them, the more they will stop coming around, the less you will see of them, because as long as they are getting supply from you, they will keep coming around. It's really that easy. They're literally that simple as far as being that much of a single-minded cellular beings. So just go gray rock, put that in the comments right now to remind yourself that that's what you need to do, because if they are not getting any supply from you, then they will have to go get it from somewhere else. That is what they feed on. That is their food. That is their fuel. That is their lifeblood. That is their oxygen. So if they're not going to get it from you, then that is how they will end up forgetting you. And if they haven't forgotten you, it is because somehow they're still getting some kind of supply from you.
So, okay, so narcissistic supply. I've seen a lot of people ask this question, like, what is supply exactly? You hear this word thrown around. What supply actually is what drives the narcissist, which is anything that feeds their ego. So, narcissistic supply can be what you normally think of what feeds people's egos, like having a big house or having lots of money or a prestigious job or the right wife or husband or living in the right community and all of those things that make you feel more important, than other people. Those are all external sources of supply. But the other way that they get supply is through what I call devaluing, debasing, judging, degrading people, controlling people, intimidation tactics, gaslighting, all those sorts of things are also a way that narcissists get supply. So understand that the narcissist is a very fragile, broken person inside. And everything they do is to cover up the fact that there's this teeny little thing inside that decided long ago, long before you ever came into the picture, when they were maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, that the world is not a great place. They can't trust the world. It was either because they experienced some sort of trauma. It may have been that they were neglected in some way, abused in some way. I've even read things that overindulged children can become narcissists as well. But the bottom line is that they end up with no sense of inner value. So they believe that they only get value from the external world and that they have to manipulate it. They have to lie about it. They have to manipulate it, and that nobody cares about them. And so they don't really care about anybody else. And in fact, if you try to care about them, they eventually end up punishing you because there must be something wrong with you for caring about them, because they have no inner sense of value. They have a very, very fragile sense of self. So in a divorce situation, you will see that injury, you're far into the discard phase. And if you haven't seen my videos on the 3 stages of a narcissistic relationship, I highly recommend you go back and watch those. So it's love bombing, devaluing, and discarding. And I have 3 different videos on each of those sections of their relationship, but they all interplay all the time. They can be love bombing as they're devaluing, or love bombing as they're discarding, or even as you're discarding. So they go back and forth between these phases. But what happens during the discard phase is you start to see the birth of the smear campaign. And that's when you start to see them lining up their flying monkeys, and they have the triangulation and all that stuff is going on. And I did my Narcissism 101 last week was on flying monkeys. So if you want to know more about them, go check out that video as well. But basically, when you are dealing with them in a divorce, they are in full on attack mode, because when you're dealing with a narcissist, you're either for them or against them. So in a divorce situation, you're clearly against them. So they go on full on attack mode, and they start wanting to get you first, and they start doing all kinds of things to try to manipulate you. And here's the key when it comes to divorcing a narcissist and dealing with supply. The thing is that you have to figure out, if you want to try to settle your case, and I just did a coaching call with somebody on this morning. If you want to settle your case, then you need to figure out what form of supply means more to them than the supply that they get from jerking you around. The problem is that you, as a reasonable person, are trying to resolve a case or resolve differences or issues like a normal person. You think, what can we do to get to a place of being done with this case? Or how do we resolve this in a way that we each get something that's fair? Or what does the law say? Or something like that. Like, you look at all of those things. They don't look at that. I mean, they'll tell you that they do, But what it really comes down to is, what are they getting out of this deal? And if what they're getting is not more important to them than the supply that they get from jerking you around, then they will continue to jerk you around. For those of you out there who have been dealing with narcissists in a case for years, or even just dealing with them for years, if they're still in your life and they're still jerking you around, then that means that they are still getting some amount of supply. They enjoy watching you squirm. They enjoy watching you get emotional. They get off on that, and they get supply from that. That's their food. That's their oxygen. That's what they breathe. That's what they live on. Like, without that, they feel like they have no sense of self. That's how they get their sense of self. It's totally screwed up, but that's the truth. That's what it is. That's what narcissistic supply is. So when you're dealing with them in a divorce situation, or even a dissolution of a business relationship, or even if you're dealing with a family member or a neighbor or somebody in your life who's a narcissist, you have to understand that they get supply from making your life miserable. So you have to figure out what supply source is going to be more important to them to keep than the supply source that they get from making you miserable. Now, let's talk about the 6 things that narcissists do when you try to go no contact, which I highly recommend that you do. And I've had to do it myself with a couple of narcissists. It's never fun. It's never great. They try to make it almost impossible. They try to make it so that you really don't want to have to do that. But you definitely do have to do that, because they will eventually take over your soul. Like, literally, I describe it as like pods. I know there was some movie, like, I don't know if it was in the 60s or something, like a long time ago, where like these pods like came and sat down next to people and like took all of their like information and like basically took over their bodies. And that's how I feel about narcissists. Like, they're these pods that just come into your life and steal you, and you end up feeling like you're like being choked to death. Or like, I don't know, my situation, where I talked a lot about this, by the way, in a couple of recent videos. One was my toxic relationships, and the other one was, I don't normally share this, my own story of bullying. But like, in my situation, I felt like one of the narcissists was literally trying to like become me, like stand in my shoes and be me, and but also like was devaluing me and doing things to me at the same time. It was super weird and really awful. And so that's kind of how you start to feel, right? And so you have to go no contact in order to like, it's like not too dramatic, I don't think, to say like save your soul. Like, that's how I felt. So, but you do want to know what's going to happen when you go to do that, right? So let's talk about that now. So the first thing is that they're going to maybe try to start going back to what worked for them before. Because remember, there's those 3 different ways that they interact in relationships. There's the 3 different phases, which is love bombing, devaluing, and discarding. And by the way, I have videos on each one of those if you want to go check them out. But they start off with love bombing, or that idealization phase, where they show up, whether it's, it's not always a romantic, it can be a business situation, which it was for me. And they show up in your space and they seem like they're absolutely perfect. And then they start to devalue you. And then, there's the discard phase, but they kind of go back and forth between the phases. So they're going to go back to what worked before. We can always work this out. We've always been so good together. We've always been able to do things. Why do you need to be so rigid? Why do you need to be so difficult? Try to like get you to be charmed by them again. Whatever that worked before to charm them, they'll go back to that. And sometimes it's called hoovering, where they're basically coming back and saying, oh, maybe I haven't talked to you in a while, and suddenly you get that ping in your inbox or in your DMs or whatever, and you're like, oh, I haven't talked to that person in a while. What are they doing here? So they're going to go back to trying to charm you in some way. So that's number one. The next thing is that they may try to escalate their tactics, like come on even stronger, like you barely feel like you can breathe sometimes with them. Like now all of a sudden they're showing up at your house, they're showing up at your office. They happen to be talking to everybody that you know, like you just can't get away from this person. There they are. They may call you incessantly, they may text you incessantly. They may escalate their efforts on all the bad things that they're doing, manipulating situations, projection, denial, deflection, lying, all the things that they normally do, but now on steroids. Because remember, with a narcissist, you're either for them or against them. They're very black and white, So they may escalate their tactics. You see like them coming on much more strongly. And then the third thing that they will likely do when you go no contact is start that triangulation, which is kind of, in the discard phase, that's when you start to see the birth of the smear campaign. So they'll escalate even the triangulation, meaning that they're lining up their flying monkeys. They're talking to people that they want you to feel excluded. They want you to feel isolated. They want you to be punished for going no contact with them. So they want you to think that they're doing great and you are making a huge mistake by going no contact with them. That they're going to have everybody in your world against you, and everyone's going to line up for them, and everyone's going to think you're the crazy one, or you're the bad one, or maybe you're the narcissist, and they'll try to divide you in that way. So isolate you, manipulate situations, triangulates that smear campaign. So that's like kind of all goes into number 3, as far as like triangulation, smear campaign, and lining up flying monkeys against you. So that's the third thing. And if any of you have seen this before, I want you to tell me I've seen it in the comments below, because I'm sure you've totally seen this before. Okay, so now let's talk about the fourth thing. So the fourth thing is that their narcissistic injury could be triggered, and so therefore that narcissistic rage comes flying out. So now they're not just trying to hoover you, they're not just pushing you more, they're not just triangulating, they're not just escalating. Now it's like they're in full-on rage. Like, you will do what I want, you will come back, you will be punished. And sometimes I think they go into this rage state just so that you're afraid, just so that you are punished. Not just that they're angry. I mean, I know that they're angry too. They're like 2-year-olds in adult bodies. So they're literally having a tantrum now. They're literally like super angry. And sometimes during this phase, that's when they start to actually become undone. They start to make mistakes. And that's when you're starting to close in on them. And in a negotiation setting, that's when that your tactics are actually starting to work. And that's when you are actually the most vulnerable to going, oh my God, I don't think I have the stomach for this. But that's when you got to keep going, because narcissists are always the worst right before they're ready to give up. And I do have a whole video on the undoing of a narcissist, which I broke down the show, that Hugh Grant show. That's a really great example of a malignant narcissist who was like continuing to do things, but the more people figured out who he was, the more mistakes he started to make, and that became his undoing. So that leads me to number 5, which is the narcissistic collapse, which sometimes they do. They completely collapse. They just become undone. They don't know what to think about their world, because, they do have a very fragile sense of self. For them, the world is a place of survival, that they have to survive. And so sometimes they do collapse, and that's number 5. And the last thing is that eventually, if you do it the right way and you create the right strategy and you have the right leverage and you figure out how to cut off any source of supply from you. That means you're not intimidated, you're not scared, your fear goes away, all of that, because now they just realize they're not getting any supply from you anymore at all. And they're like vultures, so like there's nothing left in this carcass over here. So they will eventually, and this is number 6, go find narcissistic supply somewhere else, because they have to have it. It is what they feed on, it's their lifeblood, it's their oxygen. But you just want to make sure that you are no longer a source of that narcissistic supply for them. So eventually your no contact will absolutely work.
So, what do narcissists love to do? They love to accuse you of things falsely. Why do they love to accuse you of things falsely? Because they love to trigger you. They love to get under your skin. But let's take that a step even further. Okay, so what has been going on in your relationship? All right. So, first of all, you have probably been supplying them. You've been giving them narcissistic supply. It started off where they love bombed you. They love bombed you. They came on super strong, were impossible to resist. They were charming. They were charismatic. They seemed perfect at the beginning. Am I right? Okay. Now, you thought that they were amazing. You thought they were wonderful. Maybe you thought they even loved you. Maybe you thought that they were perfect, all of these things. Now, it was all a manipulation. I'm sorry to have to tell you this. It was all a manipulation. It was all meant to get this form of supply from you. Now, I have to tell you, there are a couple of different kinds of supply. What you've probably been giving them is like the best form of supply. And the best forms of supply for them are, adulation, service, making them look good, really, really stroking their ego at the top level. There's these different phases of a narcissistic relationship. There's the love bombing, and then you go into the devaluing, and then there's the discarding. And I have videos, by the way, on all the different phases of a narcissistic relationship, the love bombing, the devaluing, and the discarding. Definitely check out my videos on all of those phases of a narcissistic relationship if you haven't checked those out. When you go to leave a narcissistic relationship, whether it's you leaving or them leaving, that's when you go into that discard phase. That's when you see that smear campaign start. That's the birth of the smear campaign. By the way, it can start even before you even realize that the discard phase has started. All right. And I do have a whole video on how to shut down a narcissist smear campaign. You can check that out too. But what's happening is during this discard phase is that you've become public enemy number 1. And you're no longer giving them the best form of supply anymore. So now they're going to want to continue to get supply from you, but they're just going to take it in the lower form of supply, which is making you miserable, making you squirm, showing them that they can still have control over you in some way. And so how are they going to do that? They're going to do these false allegations. And so they're going to start either through the court system, which is what I've seen as an attorney, by the way, over and over and over again. I mean, they file this stuff either through the pleadings. So you'll see it in the divorce pleadings. Well, they'll actually say these things in the divorce petition. They'll say father was a, molester. I mean, I've seen that. Horrible, horrible things like that, or a wife beater or a child beater, or, they will say, the worst possible things you can imagine, where you think, oh my gosh, I never even touched them. The worst possible things. Or they will just even say things like they didn't pay child support, they withheld money, things like that. or they spent lots of money. They spent lots of money on the people, lies about things like that. You will see those kinds of things in actual documents that are filed with the court. I think it's important that we walk through the types of false allegations that you will see. Then the other types of false allegations that you will see as well are people will see in the actual letters that go back and forth between the attorneys. They'll tell their attorney they didn't feed the children, that the children ate candy all weekend long, or nothing all weekend long, or pizza or junk food all the entire time that they were with the dad or the mom, or that the whole time they were with the dad or the mom, they were with a babysitter or nobody, all kinds of things. Isn't it time that you take your life back? All right. So what happens when you stop playing their mind games? Well, I've seen it firsthand because I help people negotiate with narcissists, and I've helped people take their power back, stop feeling afraid. Isn't that what you want? Yeah. Well, so in order to get there, you gotta stop playing their mind games. So, when you stop playing their mind games, they're not happy about it, because remember how the whole thing got started. They're like looking to you to get that narcissistic supply, right? That's why they attach themselves to you to begin with. They're like leeches. They attach themselves to you to suck that supply out of you. I mean, literally, it's like they attached and they came along to love bomb you, and they started conditioning you. It's so kind of predictable and sick in a certain way. And whether it's a business relationship or a personal relationship, it really doesn't matter, because I personally was in a business relationship with a narcissist, and they all start the same way in what they call love bombing stage. It could be, they call it idealization, love bombing, it doesn't matter. But basically, it starts off in this where they are super charming. They're very good at reading people. They know how to be absolutely amazing. I mean, they know how to be so crazy, wonderful. And I've actually seen people say, why can't they just stay in the love bombing stage, right? Well, because they don't want to be in the love bombing stage. That's not where their sweet spot is. I mean, they want to be in the take stage, not in the give stage. The love bombing stage is just to start grooming you, basically, so that they can get to the take stage as fast as possible. I've seen this meme that goes around at times that says, nobody falls in love faster than a narcissist who needs a place to live. I mean, that's kind of where it is, right? I mean, they want to get to the spot where they can, get to you as fast as possible. So basically, they need that supply, that narcissistic supply, which is anything that feeds their ego, anything that feeds their need for adulation or money, or that need to control you. It's their food, it's their oxygen, it's their lifeblood. It's anything that feeds their need to make them feel better in some way, because they have no sense of inner value. So how can they feel some sense of value? That's basically it. And so they condition you from the beginning. And what does that mean? Well, how much can they get away with from the beginning when they've been love bombing you for a while and they come on super strong? Super strong. We need to move in together right away. We need to be business partners right away. I can get you anything you want. I am taking you to Fiji for the weekend. I will send you 15,000 roses, or we need to be business partners right away. And I can find you all the best clients, or whatever it is. I mean, it's going to be like, it'll swirl in your head and be unbelievable. And your head will be spinning. It'll be so fast. And then all of a sudden, here they are. And you're like, wow, where has this person been all my life? And then all of a sudden, once you're in it and you're like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Oh, all right. And then all of a sudden you're sending them texts, and then where are they? Gone. And then it's, oh, why are you so needy? It'll be like that for a while. So then when you decide, you know what, I'm not playing your little game anymore. I'm done with you. I'm not playing your games. I'm out of this relationship now. I'm done. And now what's going to happen is you are going to trigger something within them, and that narcissistic rage may come flying out, or something's going to happen within them because they've got this narcissistic injury that could potentially get triggered. And so it's not going to be good. So what's going to happen is they're allowed to treat you however they want, but you're not allowed to do it back to them. Okay. So now it's going to be either they're going to flood your text messages like crazy, show up at your house or office, go crazy on you, or they're going to try to make you feel guilty as hell. All I've done for you after, la, 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 make you feel guilty. I can't believe you're leaving the family, or I can't believe you're leaving me like this. Can't believe you're leaving me an alert, to make you feel guilty for what you're doing to them. Or they're going to make something your fault. You did this, da da da. Or they're going to get very angry, very hostile. You're going to start to see whoever this person was that tried to pretend, especially if it's a covert narcissist, and they tried to pretend like they were so lovely or so nice or so this or that, you're going to start to see how rude and horrible they can actually be. They're going to start to do awful things. Maybe they'll try to shame you, or really put you down and say things like awful things to you, like nobody else would have stayed with you, or no one else will love you, or no one else likes you anyway, or awful things to you. They might do that. They might try to badmouth you to everybody else, line up flying monkeys and tell people lies about you. They might do that. I mean, really, no bar is too low sometimes. Cut you off from things, if it's a divorce, depending on how bad their scruples are, they could use the court system as their sword, file unnecessary motions, harassing pleadings, refuse to give up discovery, ignore court orders, use the children as pawns, all those sorts of things as well, run up the attorney's fees. Certainly seen all of that. React with anger, rage, violence sometimes. This is why I developed the Slay program, by the way, because you need to have strategy, you need to have leverage, you need to be able to shut them down. And if you agree with me, you need to put shut them down in the comments right now. And, you need to have strategy, you need to have leverage. And if you want to learn more about how to shut down their smear campaign, you can definitely check out my video on that topic as well. But, this is what happens when you stop playing their mind games sometimes. I mean, so, they go a little bit nutso sometimes, but you can shut them down. You absolutely can, because they're actually more afraid of you than you are of them. They absolutely are. And when they realize they're not going to get supply out of you anymore, and they realize how you can expose them and all of that, they will ease on down the road. You just got to figure out how to do it. I've seen narcissists actually be hurt. I know you don't think that they can actually be hurt, but they actually can. And I've seen it happen. And really, it comes down to this: they don't want to be exposed, for one thing. But I'm going to boil it down to basically 3 things here for you. Okay. So the bottom line is they want to maintain control. They want to maintain control all the way till the end, and they'll do whatever they can to maintain control. There's these various levels. And as you are sort of slipping out of their hands, they'll do whatever they can to maintain control. So here's what's going on here. You have been under their spell for a long period of time. And they started off with this love bombing, and then they went into devaluing, and then back to love bombing, devaluing, back to love bombing. And during that process, they were sort of grooming you, conditioning you. And they really thought that throughout that process that you would never really leave, even if they left you, that somehow you'd still sort of be under their control. And that's why even throughout the whole discard process, they're still trying to love bomb you in some way, the hoovering you and all that sort of thing. So when you first go no contact, that will hurt them. I mean, when you first start throwing up those boundaries, that will definitely hurt them. When they start to realize, whoa, maybe things are shifting, maybe things are different than they used to be, that's definitely going to hurt them. And they may not let on right away. They may posture. They may start to act like, bring it on. They may act like they're not hurt. I mean, a lot of times they'll say, oh, go ahead, try it. They may say, I don't really care. They may say, I saw what you filed, and that's just a bunch of crap, or whatever it is that they're saying to you. It may seem like you're not getting to them, but I'm telling you, when you go no contact or you start throwing up those boundaries, it's definitely going to hurt. Whenever you're cutting off a supply source, it definitely hurts. And let me tell you something else. If you are providing some sort of grade A level supply source to them, meaning adulation, compliments, money, sex, some sort of supply source to them that they really, really love. The reason why they won't let you go during the discard phase, whether it's a divorce situation or a business situation, whether you're walking away from them as a colleague, a business partner, whatever it is, they don't want to let you go because they're trading that grade A diamond level source of supply for that lower level supply source now. And so they're going to try to just manipulate you and make you squirm and make your life generally miserable because they get supply from that now too. So when you're taking away your supply, that going no contact and taking your attention away from them, it definitely does hurt them. So that's number one. And number two, if you're walking away from them while they're still love bombing you, that really hurts them. So if they are in full on, I think I am really being charming, and you're really not falling for it anymore, that will really hurt them. So if it's a love bomb move or a Hoover move, like they think that they are in that mode where you always fell for it before and you're really not falling for it this time, that will hurt them even more because that's their move. That's the one thing that you've always gone for. You've gone no contact, but now they're going back to the well of what worked before, or maybe it's a future fake. Maybe it's, come on, things are going to be better. The past is the past. Look to the future. I promise everything will be different. I'll be the person that you always wanted. I'll do the therapy or whatever it is. If it's business, I'll start doing all the things that they always knew that they were supposed to do. And I remember when I was in a business relationship with this other person who was a narcissist, all of a sudden this person started doing all of those things. And I remember just thinking it was actually insulting, because I remember thinking, oh, so you knew you were supposed to be doing those things and now you're going to do them. No, thank you. Now I just really want to be done with this. But anyway, walking away from them while they're in that love bomb phase or while they're in their charm phase is super hurtful for them. That will definitely hurt them. And if, by the way, if you want to know more about what love bombing is, you can definitely check out my video on what love bombing is. I have a Narcissism 101 series of videos. There's a whole series that you can check out. But Narcissism 101, love bombing is one of those videos that you can check out. Let me just tell you, if they are doing that, just keep walking. And I want you to put that in the comments. Just remind yourself right now, just keep walking. Put that in the comments right now. Just keep walking. Last one is being the first to leave before they've lined up new supply, because they want to make sure that they've got new supply, better supply, something to, I'll show you that I've got better supply, new supply, something that kind of shows you that I won, because they want to be able to have gotten something to fill that hole, fill that gap, which of course it is that black hole that's never filled. But they want to be able to show you that they were able to do it, show you that they've got something better, show you that they've got something that will beat you down, because they get supply from being competitive and devaluing you and all that sort of thing. So that will hurt them too. You've moved on before they were able to do that, before you were able to secure that supply, because they weren't able to control the situation. They weren't able to control the damage. They weren't able to make the decisions and, control their kingdom. And they feel entitled to be able to do that. So if you were able to move on before they were able to do that, then that will bother them too. They're very, very insecure people. So they weren't able to get to it before you were. So those are the three things that I think hurt the narcissist the most, or exposing them in some way, because they feel exposing their diamond level supply, showing, who they truly are, showing their true colors, exposing them to the world for who they truly are. That hurts the narcissist clearly the most of all things, for sure. Why do I do this? I do this because I have had to deal with narcissists in my law practice, but I've also had to deal with them in my real life. And I know what it's like. I've had to deal with them creating chaos in my own life. Yeah, I had to deal with not just one, but two covert narcissists actually targeting me, not as husbands, but close enough to actually cause real drama, trauma, and chaos, as I like to say, drama, trauma, and chaos. And I have helped people create real freedom, possibility, and purpose in their real lives. So I'm on this mission. I'm on this crusade to help people actually save your lives. And I understand why they need to create chaos. They do it in all aspects of your lives, especially in negotiations, because with narcissists, you're either for them or against them. And when you are against them, they've decided you are public enemy number one. They want to take you down. Why? Because they want to take you down before you take them down. It's a black and white world with them. They want to feel powerful. And how can they feel powerful? Well, if they create chaos, then they can intimidate you. They enjoy that power. They enjoy stirring things up. They like to see you squirm. They like to see you be intimidated. So they like to make that world chaotic, because then they feel like they're controlling it. They're stirring the pot. If they've made the world chaotic, then they've done that. Oh, look what I've done. I'm looking at the people scurrying around that I've made scurry. They think they've done that. It's like they've made the minions all scurry around, even if it's only for a minute, right? And they want to destroy anybody who is threatening their sense of power or their sense of self-worth. So they enjoy creating this chaos because it also distracts them from their own sense of insecurity, their own sense of problems with their own sense of self worth. And so it's a coping mechanism. It helps them avoid their own sense of insecurities and shame. They carry a deep sense of shame. It's the same reason, by the way, that they always create chaos around holidays and birthdays. They don't want people to not be paying attention to them. They want all the focus and attention on themselves. And if you want to know more all about why narcissists like to ruin holidays, definitely check out my video on why narcissists ruin holidays. Holidays are coming up soon, so might as well find out why. Go check it out. Check out my video on why narcissists ruin holidays coming up. And by the way, if you guys have seen this, definitely give me a totally in the comments, or give me your example of what you have seen on how the narcissist has created chaos in your lives. Okay, so the other way that narcissists love to create chaos is through verbal abuse, through physical violence. And why do narcissists do anything that they do? Well, they get supply from it. Everything they do is to get this narcissistic supply, which is anything that feeds their ego. And remember what I said, that there's a hierarchy of supply. And there's that diamond level supply, which is the outer things, the big house, the money, the prestigious job, the prestigious cars, the prestigious friends, the things that they would be happy to tell people about. But then there's what I call the dark underbelly of narcissistic supply, which is I'm going to control you, debase you, diminish you, manipulate you. And that is where that chaos comes from. And because they don't have any care or concern or empathy for other people's feelings, manipulating people and as if they're game pieces on a board, creating chaos in their lives, telling a piece of gossip or saying something about somebody that's not true, creating that chaos, filing a motion in court that is totally false, whatever. It doesn't bother them because they're narcissists. That creates chaos. They don't have any feeling about that. They get supply from it, feeds their ego. They have now stirred the pot. It feeds their ego. They get a high from that. And by the way, they can get chaos also. They can create a sense of chaos by false promises, promising somebody something and that person, oh, I'm excited, this is going to happen, and then not keeping that promise, letting that person down. They can't keep the promise. That creates chaos in somebody's life, and they get a high from that. It's really sick. Or sabotaging somebody's relationship and telling somebody something about them, or showing up in a situation, getting attention, showing up at an event that they shouldn't be at to get attention, creates chaos. They get something out of that. Showing up when somebody is sick at the hospital and getting attention from that also can create chaos. They love that. It all is for the one thing, narcissistic supply, to get their ego fed. That's it, because that's what they're after. It's always what they're after. It's all to feed their ego. That's why they need to create their chaos. They get a high from it. And because they don't have any sense of care, concern, or empathy for others, it's not tied to their people's feelings. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. They don't have any sense of guilt. If you're standing over there wondering, how can they do that to somebody? Don't they wonder about the consequences? Don't they feel anything for anybody? Don't they wonder about ruining somebody's lives? Or no, the answer is no. And so stop doing that exercise. It's not going to get you anywhere. Forget about it. Stop wondering why or how they could, or that for you is a big waste of time. Just accept they are who they are. You are not going to get closure. You are not going to get them to see the error of their ways. All of those things are a waste of time for you. You are better off stopping focusing on that. The more you give it energy, the more it will multiply. What you focus on, you get more of. So focus on something that will actually bring you more of what you want. Let go of that. Namaste and walk away. Send them light. Move on. That is the best advice that I can give you. Shopify helps millions sell billions around the world through their digital courses, through their digital products at the touch of a button on their smartphones, on social media, however they want, including me at shop.rebeccazung.com. You can access your store from all over the world, just the touch of a button from your smartphones. Start accepting payments. Everything you need to sell online, manage orders, and develop relationships in one place and look fabulous doing it. Shopify is the commerce platform that is revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide, including my own, at shop.rebeccazung.com. So right now, what you need to do is sign up for a $1 a month trial period at shopify.com/bestlife, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/bestlife to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bestlife.